Hi, this is 50/50 Real Estate Podcast for the Common Man, where we talk about selling, buying, and investing in real estate. We aren't baffling you with BS. We're dazzling you with brilliance. We're not telling you how to become a millionaire. We are telling you stories, the truth, and the information no one is talking about. So sit back, listen, laugh, and enjoy 50/50 Real Estate Podcast for the Common Man.
Hey everybody, this is JD here. Hope you're looking good and feeling fine. Hopefully you had a great weekend. Going to be talking to you a little bit about just some concerns I have from the past 3 years. Been looking at it pretty closely on the home buying and home selling aspects. And what's really interesting is I really find that probably in the next year or two, we're going to go in a deep housing recession. I think the homes are really going to start depreciating, and really concerned because I think what happened is, and I'm seeing this in a lot of products that people bought over the past couple of years. I think they were bored, or what happened is they had a lot of stimulus money, or they had a lot of equity in their homes, and they got home equity lines of credit and kind of bought things to kind of amuse them, so they weren't just sitting down and thinking that they were captive in their home. There was a lot of mental illness that came up in the past couple of years because people were just not socializing, not going to work, just pretty much staying in their homes and getting stressed out, and a lot of anxiety and depression set in, and alcoholism, drug use, and things along that lines. And I think what happened is, over the past couple of years, people got bored. And I remember my mom used to say years ago, JD, when you have nothing to do, you get yourself into trouble. And I think that's what happened. I mean, over the years, I think a couple of years, or even 3 years, when people were bored or they didn't feel good about themselves, they went out and stopped buying things. New cars, taking vacation, new furniture, just random things on the Amazon. I mean, it was amazing just kind of walking through neighborhoods. It seemed like almost every other home had an Amazon package delivered. A lot of porch pirates were out, a lot of thievery, crime really went up. And I think it's just no one had anything to do, and they were just trying to keep themselves amused. And people were in homes, people were in apartments, and they decided, look, I need to feel good about myself, and interest rates were so low, I think I'll go buy a bigger home. And with the lower interest rates, it made sense at the beginning, but then homes started to appreciate. $100,000 in 1 year. I remember looking at the market, and people were buying homes at $300,000 at the beginning of January of 2019, 2020, and at the end of that year, their house had raised $100,000. I mean, it's crazy. I looked at one home that sold 3 years ago, and it went up $220,000. And that's almost half of what it had sold for. And that's crazy. That's insane. And I think people got caught up with mental health issues, depression, staying in the home, not socializing, and they started wanting to start feeling good about themselves. And money was cheap. Money was really cheap. And they started buying homes they couldn't afford, overinflated homes. They started buying cars that they couldn't afford, and mobile homes and trucks and furniture, and building out their basements, and just a lot of them stimulus money that was received, that people did from the government. A lot of people started buying, TV sets and video game consoles, and new clothes and furniture, and just things. What was that? There's this exercise equipment. Talked to a lot of people that say, yeah, you know what, we just see these exercise, treadmills and bikes and things that people didn't want to go to the health club. They wanted to feel good about themselves, so they spent $1,000, $2,000 on exercise equipment, and now they're trying to unload it, and there's no market for it. And some of the stuff that people were selling for, bought for $1,000, $2,000, is selling for like $300-$400. Matter of fact, some of it they're just getting rid of it just because it's taking up a lot of space. So it's really interesting just looking back, and why I think the housing market is really going to be collapsing in the near future is because so many people purchased homes, and not purchasing homes were great, but what happened is they got caught up in this feeding frenzy of, wow, if I don't buy a home now, I'll never be able to buy a home. And interest rates were so low. And what was happening is a lot of people were like, well, I'll buy a home now, and hey, I don't care if I have to pay. If the house is worth $300,000 or $400,000, I have to pay $500,000 or $600,000. No problem, because I can afford that interest rate. And that's what was really interesting, because when I talked to a lot of people about the big crash of 2008, people say, well, yeah, JD, they were just giving loans to anyone who wanted to. They just stick a mirror up to your nose, and if you breathe and fogged up the mirror, they give you a loan. Well, a lot of people say, well, no, things have changed. You really do have to qualify for purchasing a home now. There's no income verification. They do check your credit. You need a sizable down payment, blah, blah, blah. Well, I looked at this and I said, yes, well, that happened in the 80s. You had to qualify. You had to put money down. Interest rates were like 11-12%, but still people bought. The economy was real good, and so on and so forth. And then the economy fell. I think back in the 80s, the oil industry fell, and there was tons of foreclosures, and the market went down. Homes that were selling for $120 within a year were selling for like $50,000 and $60,000, and so on and so forth. And in the 90s, that happened too. The economy went down the tubes, and there was tons of bank repos, foreclosures, things along that line. And there wasn't these no income, no money, no job verification loans. They still had to qualify. And I said to people, what scares me is so many people have purchased homes the past 3 years, and they didn't buy them at a reasonable price. They just kept bidding up the homes because interest rates were low, and now you have these homes that are so overpriced. Anybody who really understands the market will look at that and go, what? That house just sold for $800,000? That's insane. That house should be worth $450,000 or $500,000. And when I talk to people say, the housing market will never collapse. It won't go down. We're not going to see a housing market that drops, $100, $200, $300,000 in 1 year. And I said, well, I hope that doesn't happen. But if I purchased a home for $400,000, and in 1 year it's worth $500,000, and in the next year it's worth another $100,000. So in 2 years it's worth $250,000, which is insane because usually a home goes up maybe 2, 3, 4% a year. Then why that house in 2 years has become so overpriced? Because it didn't go 2%, 3%, 5%. It went 30% and then another 20%, and that's just totally crazy. Then what happens when the market changes and things are starting to get rough? I mean, gasoline is now triple what it was a year and a half ago. The housing market is like double. Inflation is way high. Food is high. I mean, just everything has gone through the roof that people just can't afford it anymore. And there's going to be a point, and it's really close, where people can't afford a home, where they go in, the interest rates rise, and they say, I'm not going to buy that home. I can't afford it. And you have a lot of people who don't want to sell their home because they've got that 3% loan and they don't want to give it up. But the problem is when they try to sell their home, they won't, it won't be worth what they paid for it. So they're going to say, well, look, the house is overpriced. I'm paying this low interest rate. I don't want to take a loss, so I'll just stay here. So you won't have a lot of this inventory. And then the inventory that you do have that people can't afford, they won't be able to, sell the home and make these outrageous profits. So what's going to happen is this is going to walk away from the home or do a lot of short sales. Or, like I said, there's no room for them to refinance. Back when the interest rates were 11% or 10%, when the interest rates went down, people could say, look, I can't afford this high, interest payment. Wow, I'll refinance and lower my payment $500 less a month. And boy, I'll be able to afford my home. I won't be able to lose it. But when you've overinflated the price of the home that's the past 3 years, and you've got the lowest interest rate that's been, in history of interest rates, then you don't have any place to go, which means if you can't afford that payment, you're going to have to take a loss, a short sale, or you can't refinance because the interest rates aren't going to go any lower than they had been. So you're kind of stuck, and people are going to walk away, or they're going to be doing short sales. And another thing that people did is, a lot of these people who purchased stocks, they made a ton of money in stocks, or home flippers or home investors. Well, I heard a saying, a monkey could have made money in the past 3 or 4 years because stocks were going up, interest rates were low, housing was going up through the roof. So anybody could have bought a home, fixed up, and sold it. Anybody could bought some stocks if they had any sense at all and made a ton of money. Well, now that the economy's slowing down, interest rates are going up, things are going slow, you really, really have to use your knowledge to really know about the stock market. And I heard a statistic that they said something like 70% of the people who have stocks are retail people. And what that means is it's just people like you and me. I mean, we're not Wall Street. We don't hedge fund managers. We're just people that go, hey, I think I'll buy Apple, or I think I'll buy gold, or I think I'll buy Bitcoin, and so on and so forth. And when things flip, we won't know how to adjust. We'll just stop panicking and it'll be sell, 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 sell. And it's starting to do that. Plus, it's really funny because people were selling the home, and it's really funny. I saw this and I had to laugh. As people are so used to the past couple of years of putting their home up 24 hours, you get 2-10 offers and so on. Well, there was people that putting on the offers and they were freaking out that they didn't have any offers. And then I found out that home was only on the market for a week. Well, the average market home is listed 3 weeks to maybe a month, to sometimes a month and a half before you get a real decent offer. But so many people, are kind of stuck in this home, and now they want to get rid of it and they can't. Or if they don't get an overinflated price like they've been doing the past couple of years, they're going to panic. They're going to be stressed out. They're going to be, I can't afford this house anymore. Or, like I said, they won't be able to afford the house because maybe something changed financially and it's just a crazy economy. But they won't be able to sell it because the fact is they're giving that 3% up, and they're probably going to get a 5% loan, but they're going to give that 3% up, but their house is overinflated to get the 3%. So it's just, it just really, really is ugly out there, and everybody's just kind of turning a blind eye on it. They're like, oh yeah, the market's going to be great. Everything's going to be wonderful. And it's just not going to happen. I mean, they're saying inflation went up 7%. That was before the Ukraine war, and gas went up. And now food's up, and gas is up, and, just energy bills are up, and food's up, and just the whole thing has gone through the roof. And people won't be able to afford it. It's not a 7% inflation rate. It's probably a 10 or 12% inflation rate. And it's just, really sad, because statistics say if you make $15 an hour, by the time taxes and insurance and state taxes are taken out and all this, nobody can even afford to rent. So, and it's getting a lot worse. And like I said, when this market starts to go down, you're going to have a lot of people who purchased homes the past 4 years who maybe aren't making that income, start losing their jobs, and won't be able to get out of their homes. And there's going to be a lot of short sales, foreclosures, and so on. So I'm seeing that now. I mean, if you're just looking at bank repos, HUD foreclosures, you're seeing a lot of inventory out there. And some of my reps that I work with, they're gearing up for a big tsunami of foreclosures coming out this year. And they were just getting in touch with me to tell me that it's coming, just can't be ready for it. So they're just kind of holding back, because I don't think they want to just flood the market with tons of foreclosures, but it's slowly trickling in. But eventually, they can't keep holding it, because they're holding inventory. That's going to cost tons of money. It looks bad on the books, and they need to get that stuff off their books, then have a ton of foreclosures properties. It just makes them look really bad to their investors and so on, to say, look, we have all these foreclosures we're holding because we gave out bad loans, even though it has nothing to do with the banks. It could have a lot to do with the economy or bad decisions the homeowners do. But it's really never the homeowners or bad decisions, always the banks. The banks are the one that got them all in trouble. The banks made bad decisions loaning these people's money. They just took advantage of all these people and so on and so forth. And that's not true. So, like I said, folks, I'm not trying to be an alarmist here and scare you, but I'm just looking at everything. And if you just kind of open your eyes, and start really looking and doing your research, you're going to find out it's not all this rainbows and unicorns and fuzziness that everybody's talking about. Oh, the market's still going to go up and the economy's really good. And, it's really interesting. I was talking to a few people and they were saying, yeah, there's a lot of jobs out there, but they're like $15 an hour jobs and you can't live on them. And that's why nobody wants to take them. And the big high paying jobs, I mean, you need like 10 years as computer scientist, biochemist, computer engineer, robotic engineering, and so on and so forth. So there's specialty jobs that take a lot of education and a lot of experience that just the average person doesn't have. So that's why a lot of these high-paying jobs are just left open. You just don't have a lot of highly educated people that can fill those jobs. So, like I said, it's going to be an interesting year here. We're going into a election year, and who knows where that's going to go. And I think it's going to be kind of interesting to see where we are when it comes to election time, and to see what where the House and the Congress go. So, well, folks, thanks for listening to me. Like I said, it's going to be an interesting year. Read. Don't buy anything. Please, don't buy anything. Save. Don't invest in stocks. If you have any stocks, I would sell as much as stocks. If you have any pension plans and you got money in plans, I'm not giving financial advice. Please consult your financial advisor, but I would, cash in my pension plans or retirement plans and just put that in the bank and hold it. And because when everything goes down, you'll be ready to stop buying stocks at cheap price. And when that house, that's $600,000 goes down to $300,000, you'll be able to buy that and have a good investment, and so on and so forth. But I think anybody who's holding stocks, bonds, investments, retirement plans, and so on, I think they're going to see their retirement plan probably in the next year anywhere from 20 to probably 40-50% less than what it is now. Well, guys, like I said, I'm just giving you the warning. You do whatever you want, and I hope it just doesn't hit you. But be wise. Like I said, don't go buying houses that you can't afford just because the interest rates are. Don't go buying TVs and cars and all that other silly stuff just because, we're still into cheap money. Don't buy anything. You don't need it. Just buy food, have your health, and have a decent place to live, and just hold off. Or otherwise, if you get greedy and you're thinking, man, I want this and this and this, you can keep buying it, and then things turn around and you're left holding the bag with a ton of debt and houses you can't afford, then you can't blame anybody. You just blame yourself. And like I said, people are intentionally greedy. And they want more and more and more and more. And, when everything's going great, they all think they're a genius. But when things turns around and they start losing everything, they don't blame themselves. They don't say, you know what, I was just stupid. What was I thinking? I just became really greedy. I kind of believed my own ego. And now things are down. I'm losing everything. And, I'm blaming everybody except me. It's not, don't do that. Remember, use your brains. Stop back and say, do I really need to buy what I'm buying now? And can I live without it? And I guarantee you in the future, you won't regret your decision. But if you keep buying things because it's cheap money, pretty soon you're going to have to pay the piper. And when you lost your job or they cut back or so on, and you can't afford this, you can have all these things that aren't going to make you happy, and you're going to be crying in your beer, and you're going to be left out in the street bankrupt, because you thought you were a genius, because boy, it was easy to make money when interest rates are low and everybody was buying stocks and houses. But now things are down the tubes, and you really got to be smart, and you just don't have that experience, and you're just gonna lose everything, and you're gonna be bitter, angry, and mental health issues start coming in when you can't afford your bills and so on, and it's gonna be really ugly. So folks, do what you want to do, like I said, and I just wish you good health and hopefully great wealth and good prosperity, but don't get crazy. I mean, because like I said, it's coming, and if you don't see it, the only person you have to blame is yourself. All right, thank you very much for listening. Have a good week, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed the show, Real Estate for the Common Man. Please follow us or subscribe. Tell your friends, neighbors, relatives, and coworkers about us. We're on all your major podcast apps: Amazon, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. If you can't remember all that, just Google it, or have your friends Google Real Estate for the Common Man and it will come up. Again, we thank you very much for your time, and hopefully you enjoyed the show. Hey, if you live in Colorado Springs and want to buy or sell a home, you can look us up at soldrealestatecompany.com, as in I sold a home. Again, thank you very much. Have a very good week, and we'll see you next Monday. Bye for now.